Everybody today. What's up, guys? Welcome to my live coding with Matt Groves stream. Episode 37. We're going to wrap up the microservice stuff that I've been working on, at least wrap up the local development Docker portion of it. And I do want to explore in a episode very soon, actually deploying this to Kubernetes. And I've already started talking with Brant about this because, again, this is kind of the stuff that he's been doing for a while. He's an expert on, and I'm just trying to catch up to him. But I'm going to actually show you what I've been doing on the stream here as I've been doing like a Hello World project, microservice. And now what I've done off camera is I've actually moved the chatbot itself into the microservice, which turned out to be pretty easy. Although there's a few more things we need to change, I think, before we can go into Kubernetes. We'll get to that today. And I also, because I finally got it in a microservice and all wrapped up in Docker Compose, I can finally try out some of this eventing stuff to do kind of a, not really, but a pseudo subscribe to database changes. And I'm going to show you that today. You know, I don't know if I'd recommend it for production, but, you know, it's kind of cool how it works. So I want to show it off. And it might work fine in production. It really depends on what you're doing and what you need to do, that sort of thing. So we're going to look into it today. All right, the theme of this channel pretty much is this. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So if you have a question about Twitch, you got a question about what program am I using on the screen, you got a question about anything at all that comes to mind in this channel, ask away. Please do not be afraid to ask a question because we thrive on interaction in this channel. Our team live coders, we thrive on communicating with you and working with you and answering your questions. So that is what drives this channel. I could just stand here and give you a lecture for 2 hours, but I mean, what's the point of that? We're on Twitch. Let's make it interactive. Ask a question, whatever it is. And if you think, oh, this is a stupid question, I'm not gonna ask it. I mean, it might be something I've never thought about before. Maybe you're pointing out something that I just have taken for granted. I'm like, oh yeah, let's talk about that. So ask away. Don't be afraid to ask away. If anyone gives you any grief in the chat for that, look, that's not allowed here. So this is a safe place to ask your questions, no matter what they are. Speaking of team live coders, I am rocking the jersey today. Let me back it up, give you a better shot of this. Yeah, team live coders. This nice little fancy jersey that they gave everybody on the team. Thank you for that, CSharp Fritz. But let me show you the team live coders page. So if you go to Twitch/team/live coders, hey, it's just me. I'm looking at myself. Panic. Okay, I don't want Inception here. So there we go. Normally I see at least one other person streaming, but right now it's just me. That's a new experience. Yeah. So anyway, while I'm not streaming, you can go check out the Twitch live coders team and find other people who are on the team who are streaming. So there's 91 other members of this team who do live coding, who do all kinds of different projects, web projects, desktop games, all kinds of stuff. And you can check those out at Twitch/team/live coders. Great. What's next? So hopefully someone will come online later today because I like to raid another team member at the end of my stream. So hopefully someone will come up here later. Awesome developer streaming list. So if you're looking for other people who are streaming developer stuff on Twitch or other places like Mixer, Facebook, YouTube, wherever, you can go to GitHub/BNB/awesome developer streams and just a big text file, a list of people who are streaming. It's been updated yesterday, so we're going to do a quick Control F to kind of show you how this works. But you can do a Control F in your browser and you can look for a term that you want to learn more about streaming. So I like to do a search for data whenever this is updated because I do a lot of database stuff, a lot of backend on my channel. I want to see other people who are doing it. I want to check out their streams. So we'll do a quick search here. We got Liz Phillips. Yep, there's myself. I do a lot of databases, Couchbase, SQL, NoSQL, .NET, ASP.NET, and some gaming from time to time. Rachel Tapman, Shirley Wu, this same usual suspects, Ted Young, yep, go Maestro go. So it looks like no one, Jackmot, so no one's really added any database streaming. It's kind of surprising that there's so little database stuff going on live streams. Now, most of these people do interact with databases to some extent, right? But it's they're focused more on the front end or the web framework or things like that, which is great. It's important, valuable stuff, but I am really into database stuff, so that's what we focus on this channel. If you're looking at database stuff or Python or Rust or whatever, go to this github/bnb/awesome-developer-streams, do a Control F, and you're going to find a lot of people who are streaming about your topic that you're interested in. What else we got? Yeah, if you want to see the backlog of old episodes of this stream, you can go to this link over there. You can see it. Oh, my finger's gone. Right over there. Get bit.ly/GrovesTube. That's my archive of Twitch videos and other stuff, but a lot of Twitch videos. They're on Twitch for like 30 days, and then they go away, so I export them over to YouTube, so you can watch them later. So if you're watching now on YouTube, hi, how are you doing? Join us on Twitch Live sometime, Twitch TV/Matthew D. Groves. But also, I would appreciate if you hit that like button or hit the subscribe button, things like that. Thank you for watching. Okay, over here to TwitchBot. TwitchBot is currently on, and we're going to go ahead and just make sure that's the case. I'm going to set the current project to TwitchBot. Got it. Okay, so TwitchBot is on and listening. Lots of commands there. You hit bang help, get those commands whispered to you, and away we go. If you have suggestions for commands, I keep a list of those. Work on them sometime in the future. So if you have ideas for unique commands, I'd love to hear about it. Especially if they involve querying or working with data, because that's again sort of the focus of this channel. CSharp Advent is going on right now. If you are into C# like I am, you should check this out. Because right now we're taking signups. I'm taking signups for the CSharp Advent. This is just 25 days, December 1st to December 25th, where I publish, where whoever signs up publishes their blog post, their content, their video, their whatever on the day, and they link back to this page. So it's like an old-fashioned web ring, kind of. But it's at Christmas time, during the Advent, December 1st to 25th. And there's still a few slots left. So if you're into C#, or you're just starting out C# and you want to get started with blogging or video or sometimes even podcasting or whatever you want, slots here. See these empty slots, the empty spaces in this table? These are for you. And as the days start, December 1st, we're going to put links to the content over in these two columns. So I'd like to fill up this column here. Right now we've got a full 25 days of content, and I've got 2 people every day, so we still have a few slots left. So sign up for that if you want to, crosscuttingconcerns.com, and should be the first blog post there, but that's the URL if you want to check that out. And if you also, you can try out, I think this still works, csadvent.christmas. There's a Christmas TLD, so you can use that as well. Check it out, and we'll start publishing those in December. But signups are right now. It's a little early, right? It's October. You know, people are starting to get annoying with the Christmas stuff in the stores, right? But we like to be a little bit prepared, give you plenty of time to write your content and sign up for a spot. So go ahead and do that right now if you're interested in C#. If you are someone who has used or is using Couchbase, I've got a chance for you to win some prizes. So you can go here to bit.ly/Couchbase survey. I'll post that there in the chat. So this is designed for people who are using Couchbase or familiar with Couchbase. We have some questions for you. We want to do some things to try to improve the developer experience, improve the product, improve the, help foster the ecosystem around Couchbase. So we have some questions for you. And for filling out the survey, we have some prizes to give away. So at random, we're going to pick 4 people who have filled out the survey and give them a really cool prize. And let's zoom in here to show you these prizes because these are really good. I want some of these prizes. Some of these are prizes we give away at the events we sponsor as well. But a Commodore 64 Mini. You can hook a Commodore 64 right up to your modern TV, HDMI. A JBL waterproof Bluetooth speaker. Very cool. Portable. And you can take it in the shower with you and play music in the morning like I do. A Rocketbook, reusable notebook. You can draw. It's like a little mini whiteboard. You can draw on it, write notes, use your phone to take a picture kind of, and save that as a document to Dropbox or OneDrive or a million other services. And then erase it and reuse it again. Great. And then Decrypto, which is a fun-looking board game. Let me just show you. I really like the box art. That's why I've never played this game, but I really like the box art. You can see there it's got all kinds of technology gizmos and stuff on it. So that's a fun little board game. This is just kind of as a token of our appreciation for taking the survey and helping us out. We're going to give away those prizes. So, like I said, if you're in a Couchbase, check it out, bit.ly/Couchbase survey. All right, what else we got? Oh yeah, and you got to enter that by October 31st to be eligible for prizes. So you have 9 days left, so get on that. Okay, so let's get down to business. This is kind of the same set of notes that I've been working on in the last few episodes. We went from 0 to microservice using ASP.NET, using Couchbase Server and Docker Compose, all working together. Now I'm using Docker Compose. This is what Burnett recommended that I do. That's what he does for his microservices. He develops on his local machine using Docker Compose, and then he goes into production using Kubernetes. And so that's what I eventually do. I think there's a few things I have to tweak in the chatbot, because the chatbot is what I want to go into AKS. A few things I have to tweak there in terms of configuration to get that ready for Kubernetes. We might work on that today, but that's the goal. I want to get to that, and so I'm going to show you today what I had to do to the chatbot to get it to work with this whole Docker Compose thing that I've been doing. And the full source code for the Hello microservice, I don't think I have it on GitHub yet, so let's go ahead and do that. Put that on GitHub today. Just going to show you that. Although you can just look at Calvin Allen's Docker Playground. It's kind of the same thing happening there. Okay, and then the other thing I want to talk about. This is one of the other reasons that I wanted to do this microservice thing, is because Couchbase has an eventing service. This is relatively new to Couchbase Server, that allows you to write some code that will execute when data changes are made. So when a document is updated, a document is created, a document is deleted, you can write an event to respond to that change. And well, let me just show you. So I got an email. This was back in July of this year. Hello, Matthew. I've been watching many of your videos, and thank you for the detailed information. I do have a question for you. So I love this email, first of all. This is something I've been thinking about a lot since July. I have a .NET Core MVC that is pulling documents from Couchbase. I used your video, .NET Dependency Injection, as a starting point. I'm using a separate C# loader to inject documents into a series of buckets, and I'm trying to view those updates in real time using SignalR on my MVC page. Do you have any ideas on how to accomplish this, or maybe a better solution instead of SignalR? Sorry if the explanation is not enough information. I'm relatively new to .NET development as well as Couchbase. No need to apologize. This is a really, really great question and a great idea. So the idea is, as I kind of understood it, this is kind of, let me just make a note here. This is kind of what he wants. So we've got a C# loader, and it's putting documents into Couchbase, okay? He's also got a C# MVC project, MVC website, let's say. All right. Now he wants when a document is updated in Couchbase, I want to display a message to the user, and so the question basically is, can I use SignalR to do this? And then if so, how does SignalR communicate with Couchbase? That's kind of what I assumed his question was asking. So right now, the answer is you can't really, I mean, the only way you can really do this is if you can kind of, well, I'll just spell it out in my response here. So thanks for checking out the videos. SignalR is a great tool, and we've seen some SignalR here today. And actually, some of the commands in the channel here, if you do bang help, some of those commands actually use SignalR. SignalR is a great tool for updating a web page with data pushed from the back end. You can have your back end query Couchbase or whatever database it is, right? Every so often to find updated documents and push them to SignalR. So this was my first suggestion, is you could just have a regular process that's sort of polling the database and say, hey, did this change? Hey, did this change? Hey, did this change? And then push those to a SignalR hub. Now, currently, there is nothing like a Couchbase event that the MVC app can subscribe to. So some databases have the ability to subscribe to some sort of event feed or change feed or log or things like that. that is not something that Couchbase Server currently offers. However, there is this eventing service, which I mentioned, in Couchbase that you can potentially make HTTP calls from the events in response to events. All right, so you could kind of take this approach. It's a bit of a Rube Goldberg approach, but it's what we have right now. So you have your C# loader. It puts data in Couchbase, saves data in Couchbase. Couchbase then will receive that data. It will, if you create one, it'll launch an event, and that event itself can make an HTTP request. So it could, for instance, post the document to the MVC project. The MVC project then could use a SignalR hub to post that information or send that information up to the web page of the user there. So it's a couple extra steps here, but I think this will work. And this is my answer that I gave him back in July. And I haven't really said this much in the stream here, but I've been kind of thinking about this in the back of my mind since then. So it's a little bit complex, and you have to write the Couchbase event. So you do have to write a little bit of code in Couchbase to do this. And you write that in JavaScript, and it makes a curl request. That's the function you call from Couchbase, is curl. Now, I did say this as well, and this I think is still true. What's coming in the future to Couchbase, I don't know when for sure, but it is coming in the future, is an event stream. And I don't know if that's what's going to be called. It may be called something different. I don't know. But your MVC app or any app really could subscribe to that event stream directly. So that would cut out some of that chain, right? So it would cut out this part right here. This extra couple steps there. And so I don't know, it might still involve HTTP, but this kind of introduces a little bit of HTTP traffic into it, which may be totally fine, but it's just extra couple steps that you have to sort of do manually. So is that what you're looking for? Does this help? If not, and here's where I come to the stream, maybe I could try to work on this on my Twitch live stream. So I have been kind of not doing this only, but I've been sort of working towards this as well and making it into a video in the next month or so. So if you're watching, this is kind of that video. I'm working towards that. So what I want to do now is I'm going to switch over to Visual Studio. This is my TwitchBot project, which you can find the URL for if you just hit bang current project right there in the chat. It'll show the URL for that. And it's just a GitHub project, which I added a README to, by the way, which I didn't have before. So another check off my list. Let me make sure I have Zoom it running because it's kind of hard to read here. Yeah, okay. So here's my project. I've got the web, which is an ASP.NET Core web project. Very simple. It's basically just hosting the core project. I've got unit tests for it. Now something new that I've added is this Docker Compose. So if you watched the last few streams, I've added container orchestration to this project using Docker Compose. So if you look here in Docker Compose YAML, you'll see kind of what we've been working on the last few streams. So I've got this one here called mattstwitchbot.web. This is going to run the chat app that's currently running, and I'm passing in some settings to it, like this Couchbase server, which Couchbase here refers to this Couchbase service. And I'm depending on the Couchbase service as well. This is something that Calvin added, and by the way, I don't think I explained this in the last stream because I didn't know. This is a script, open source script, that Calvin found, and I can bring up a link to this if we need it. But basically what this script does is it will look at this URL and this port number, and it will say, it will just wait. It's just going to wait to run this application, whatever the startup script is for this container here. It's going to wait until this is accessible. So the idea here is simply just to wait until Couchbase server is up and running and has port 8091 available. This is kind of optional, right? But it's a nice little script to put in there. That's not going to actually run the app until the server is ready, which makes sense to me. That's a good addition. Up here in the Couchbase, I've actually changed this to use beta 2. So if you're not aware, Couchbase 6.5 has been in beta, and the beta 2 release has just come out, and that's available on Docker. So I put that in here. This is different than what Brant was doing. Brant has his own custom image of Couchbase that has a lot of stuff in there, a lot of scripts and stuff to help automate the process of spinning up a database, which is really great. I kind of wanted to steer away from that for my stream because I'm a little more instructional, and his script, his image is incredibly useful and powerful, but it's very, very opinionated, right? It has a lot of stuff in there to set up indexes and set up full text search indexes and all that kind of stuff, set up credentials and everything like that. And you may not want to do things exactly his way. So I kind of wanted to just stick to the stock Couchbase script, although I definitely recommend checking out what he's done because it is some great stuff. The other thing I've done is I've also set up a volume so that once I close down Visual Studio, I close down my app, or I stop Docker Compose or whatever, the data stored in Couchbase will not go away. It's going to be saved to this folder here. And I can actually show you this. This is pretty cool because you can see the folder. This is called a volume. And let me bring it up here. So here's my TwitchBot folder locally, my local copy of the project. So I've called my volume Couchbase TwitchBot. So it creates a folder here on my Windows machine outside of the container called Couchbase TwitchBot. And it's storing the inside the image, it's storing opt Couchbase var, and the contents of that are being stored here in Windows. So next time I run this, it's going to mount this volume and use these same files. So you can see here, if I go into lib and I go into Couchbase and I go into data, for instance, you're going to see all the data being stored for this database. So for instance, Twitch chat. Inside this Twitch chat folder, there's going to be 1,024 of these couch files. And these couch files all store a shard, a piece of the data. So it's not a plain text file, right? But you can see that we've got some JSON data in here. Why 1,024, you ask? Well, that's just sort of a fundamental thing about how Couchbase works. All your data in Couchbase across your entire cluster is stored in 1,024 pieces. These pieces are called shards, and they're divided up by the number of clusters you have. So if you have 1,024 shards and you have 2 nodes, well, that means you have 512 shards per node. If you add another node, it's going to divide it by 3. Add another node, it's going to divide it by 4, etc. And so it's going to automatically shard this data and spread it out evenly amongst your whole cluster, which is one of the great features of Couchbase. You don't have to do sharding yourself. It's automatically done by Couchbase. Keeps the data distributed evenly across your cluster. Fantastic. I love it. So there you go. So that's the actual raw data being stored on disk. And you're not really supposed to touch this data directly, right? This isn't necessarily a good backup strategy, but I'm just kind of showing you how the Docker volume stuff works. Okay, I also opened up more ports. Don't necessarily need to do this, but I opened up all the main Couchbase ports for dealing with key value operations and eventing and querying and all that kind of stuff. You can find the full documentation for ports here at this URL. Okay, so what I can do is I can hit Control F5 now from Visual Studio, and it will spin up the web application here and the associated Couchbase image. And if we take a look right now at my command line, you'll see those 2 images are running. So it's created with Docker Compose. Here's the web one, here's the Couchbase one, and there we go. They're running right now. Now, if I shut down Visual Studio, those images are going to go away. However, this folder will remain, and it'll be mounted next time. So any data that gets stored in there is going to keep going. All right, what else did I change? So, oh yeah, one little thing. Actually, that's pretty much all I changed, although I did switch the configuration over to use app settings. Over here, you can see app settings development. I put Couchbase in here. Now the name of the server here, as you can tell by what I've put in the placeholder, it gets overwritten by the environment injected via Docker Compose. So back over here to Docker Compose. This is going to be injected with this value. It's going to overwrite this. So this is just kind of a placeholder. It's never going to actually be used. Credentials, this is one of the parts where I need to probably also override this, not in Docker Compose, but in some other sort of, maybe a Docker Compose override or something, because those are not good credentials for a real production app on AKS. So need to figure out a way to do that. Okay, and then everything else is pretty much the same as before, I think. So there we go. I've got my chat app running now as a microservice, essentially. Although that word, that's one of those buzzwords, right? Microservices. Is it really a microservice? That's an argument for that's an argument for Twitter, right? Not for here. Call it what you want. Microservice. It's running on Docker. It's running with its own database. And yeah. All right. So let's go back over here. I want to show you the other cool thing that I've done is I've got this event. So I've got eventing running here. If you look at servers, eventing is one of the services. I've got all of them running on the same node. Typically, you wouldn't do that in production, but at least not this many, right? But you could do this, right? Run them all on the same node. I only have the one node, and so I've got eventing running. And so with eventing, you can basically just create some JavaScript functions. So I've got one here. Well, you can have two different JavaScript functions. You have onUpdate and onDelete. You can have as many different set of functions as you want to. But this code will run whenever a document is updated. Now, which document, you say? Let's go back to eventing here. And I've got settings. So these are the settings for that function that I've created. So there's a source bucket. It's going to monitor documents in this bucket. And there's also a metadata bucket. So the eventing process has to store some data about eventing. And so you need a separate bucket for that. Just kind of a storage area. Give it a name, give it a description. There's some other stuff. I can also do bindings. I don't necessarily need this binding, but this is an alias that I want to give to the source bucket. So this source bucket up here, within the function, I can refer to that bucket by using src, and it's read-only. I've also got a URL alias, which again I could use within the function, probably for my curl method, right? And I'm going to pass it a URL. And I've just got match_twitchbot.web. So why match_twitchbot.web? Because if you go back to Docker Compose, that's what it's called, match_twitchbot.web. So inside of Docker, there's sort of a DNS service that's going to see this and point it to the web application. So I pass in bot URL there. Now inside the application, I don't actually use src, so we could probably omit that. But notice I do use bot URL. So I'm creating this request object, the body of which is just the full document that's being updated. And I'm creating a curl request. I want to post to the given URL that request, that body. That's all this method does. That's all this function does, is just turn around and pass this document, push it out to ASP.NET Core. And I've got an endpoint here in home controller. This is very experimental, right? I don't necessarily know if I recommend this for beginners or as something. If you can wait for the real event stream feature to happen in Couchbase Server, I would recommend doing that. This is kind of if you really need to do it right now or you just want to experiment with it. But this is just a endpoint, and I've got a Couchbase notification. I may experiment with this, making this a little more generic, but I've got a class. These are all Twitch messages, so I'm looking for username, channel, and message. I'm just going to return that out to the console. It doesn't actually do anything yet, but I could, for instance, call to my SignalR hub here and pass a message up to the web page. So maybe we'll try that today. But that's it. Yeah, that's really it. And so I've got in the source code here, if you look at models, I've got the actual JavaScript function here that I showed you already, and then a bunch of information about why I've created this function, how to do this yourself. It's not an automatic deploy, it's just kind of a manual step, right? A lot of this is manual because I'm using the off-the-shelf Couchbase image. And I'm not using something like Brandt's image that has a lot of built-in scripts and things like that. Yep, so that's it. And so there you go. If you're watching this video, that's the sort of Rube Goldberg eventing thing that I proposed back in July. This process right here. Loader saves to Couchbase. Couchbase launches an event. The event itself launches an HTTP request. The MVC project receives that request and then communicates it to SignalR, and which SignalR will then communicate it through WebSockets or whatever up to the user. So There you go. Easy as that. Now, I did ask about this to some of the eventing engineers within Couchbase, and they said, yeah, this could work. We do have that feature on the roadmap where you can subscribe to events. It's not out yet, but it's on our roadmap to work on. And you probably want to consider what happens if this request fails. For some reason, the HTTP request fails for whatever reason, right? You might want to catch that and then retry it later. So you could create a timer-based event to do retries, that sort of thing. So right now my code is just ignoring. If there's an error, it just ignores it, throws it away. You might also want to log it at the very least, that sort of thing. So there's a you can call log method, blah blah blah, and that's going to write to the eventing log, which you can then view from Couchbase or wherever else. Which will also, by the way, get stored in here. If I look under Couchbase data, this is not necessarily the way I'd recommend, but if you look at eventing, not there. Eventing, there's a log. So I've done this in the past. I've written some messages to the log. I've called them MSG, and I've put some data in there. So you could view the log file directly via text. Hey, Surly Dev, thanks for joining. It does seem to be clear wizards and princesses. Surly Dev's referring to some of the gaming that I've done on the stream. And Surly Dev, it turns out there are many things that are worse than wizards and princesses. And that's enough said about that. But the last game I played was called, what was it? Something Dragon? I'm going through the old CR adventure games, and it's a kid's game where you have to save animals from the dragon. Very, very simple game, but pretty good. You can see beginnings of some really solid adventure game tropes and adventure game mechanics there. Anywho, so that's it. What else? What else should we do today? I'm probably going to make that into a little highlight clip and forward it on to my friend who emailed me about that process. But let's see, what else do we have? Go over here to intro. Okay. So create a README. Yep, I did that. Still thinking about this one. The actual into the room and playing the sound effect sort of thing. And that's kind of something I'm thrashing against the actual Twitch API. It doesn't seem to really support that level of notification. Really mean by going to bed on time and miss some real gems. Well, I mean, you can go back to bit.ly/GrovesTube and check out the stream. It's actually really short. It's like 30 minutes or 40 minutes for that game. I don't know if I'd call it a gem. It's a kid's game, obviously, but if you're looking at this from a historical point of view, there's some interesting adventure game tropes in there that Sierra was doing before LucasArts went on to perfect the same kind of approach. And you have to watch the video to kind of see what I mean. But you'll just have to think of the 3AM game session with fondish memories. That video is also available, Surly Dev, if you want to go back and relive that really not good Wizard and Princess game. One of the earliest Sierra Adventure games. You can do that as well. bit.ly/GrovesTube. Okay, so why don't we add a couple commands to our chatbot? So define entering the room. Yeah, right. So there is an event so I've struggled with this in the past, but there is an event in the Twitch client. Twitch client on user joined. That event doesn't really seem to work exactly the way I'd expect it to. It seems to sort of batch up users, and it only does it every so often. I'm not exactly sure the details of how this works, but it's not working it doesn't immediately fire when someone joins. So it doesn't quite work the way I'd expect. But anywho, let's go on to tempting. Nope. I don't know what that means. All right, so one suggestion was add a live coders command or an awesome dev command to plug those things that I always plug every time I start the show, the Live Coders team on Twitch and the Awesome Dev list on GitHub. And so why not do that? What I was also thinking about is making this a little more data driven. So how do we do that? So basically, if anyone enters a command starting with bang, let's look in the database to see if that exists. So the dev, I would expect that to return a list of users every few minutes. You're talking about the Twitch client on entry. If someone is lurking, it could expose them. They might not like that. Sure. Yeah, so I'm not trying to expose lurkers. That's, if you want to lurk my channel, totally fine. What I was trying to do is if a particular user, like Calvin or yourself or whoever, a regular in the chat, would come into the channel to play like a little fanfare for a little interest music, something like that. Speaking of lurking, there's Coral R. You have Chatty open and logging for a few channels, even though I'm not watching the streams at the time. Right, so Chatty would be an IRC client, I assume. I don't think I've used Chatty, but yeah, I mean, so Twitch is Signal R in action. Thank you for that, Surly Dev. Yeah, Twitch, if you're not familiar, if you're watching this, Twitch is basically a souped up IRC server. It really is what it is. It's IRC with a video stream and some other customizations, but it's essentially IRC. You can connect to Twitch using IRC clients of old. I was an MIRC guy myself, or Merc, or however you say it. Yes, I am. There's a setting on Chatty to log enters and leaves, and it batches them up. Okay. That's probably what Twitch is doing as well. It's batching up the entrances and the leaves. Coral says, I get to see all your text messages between streams. So that probably explains... Hey, thanks for the follow. Legend of Chan, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Speaking of lurking, we got some lurking going on today. Yeah, that explains, Coral, why you're always on the list of users there. You must just be logged in all the time. And yeah, when I'm not streaming, I do sometimes will throw up test messages into the channel. Which, yeah, if you're just sort of lurking when I'm not streaming, that might look a little strange. There's a bunch of test messages in there. Code Rush does fanfares for the regulars, but they fire off when they first chat. Okay, that might make sense, right? So, hey, I started the stream. Calvin sends a message like hi, then, hey, Calvin, music, whatever. Unless they use square bracket on the first message, which disables it for that day. That's interesting. We're using MIRC on day 700 of your 30-day trial too. Was MIRC trialware? I don't remember it being trialware. I can't remember though. It might have been shareware. I don't remember. Coral, do you remember about MIRC being trialware or shareware? Because I'm pretty sure everybody in the world was using MIRC, at least everybody on Windows. And I don't think many people were paying for it. Shareware, if I recall correctly, with nagging that we all disabled. Okay. Okay, I don't know what was funny about that, but all right. The sound effects, by the way, are throttled, Surly Dev. We added that feature a while back, so you can't spam you can't spam the sound effects. And that's global, by the way, which is another feature I might want to add is turn on throttling per user, that sort of thing. Okay, so I guess it was shareware. I forget. It's been a long time since I've used MIRC, but I used to use it religiously. That's how I met Coral. I probably should have paid for it, although I was a poor high school, college student, so I didn't really have money to throw around on IRC clients. Although as much as I used it and much impact it had in my life, I wish I could go back right now and give that guy, whatever he was asking, $20 or $30 or whatever it was. Be happy to do that. Yep, I told you the sound effects are throttled. You're using Pigeon on IRC now. Wow. I used to use Pigeon back in the heyday of instant messaging because it would combine all my different accounts. Like I think I used AIM and I used MSN, Messenger, whatever it was called. They changed the name 3 or 4 dozen times. And there's one other one, I think, that I used as well with Pigeon. But Pigeon was great. I think Coral actually introduced me to Pigeon back in the day. Speaking of which. But yeah, I don't think many people did, Surly Dev. I don't think many people did pay for MIRC. Many people didn't pay for shareware back then either. But yeah. Maybe we can go find him, see if he's still around. Throw him some money. MIRC. Internet Relay Chat Client. Let's see. Register. Latest news. So this looks like it's, well, let's see. When was the latest release? July 2019. It's still going. Pigeon is pretty good, and the main guy behind it streams too. That's cool. So we can register MIRC. So it's $20 to register it. I don't use MIRC. I'm not going to use it. Cora, I wonder if my old scripts still run on it. That would be hilarious. What did I used to run? Sphinx script? Was it Sphinx that I used? Or there's another one that we used a lot as well. For running file servers back in the day on IRC, when we used to send files. Oh yeah, you did write your own. I think I did write my own scripts as well, although I think I ended up going back to Sphinx script. Scripts, no, he's talking about MIRC scripts. Chance wrote Sphinx, we argued a lot. Well, you know, a lot of arguing in that channel, just pointless, you know, bickering. You know, that's what you do when you hang out with someone for, like, you know, every day for hours a day. You know, eventually start bickering, arguing about nonsense. But I remember the good times of the channel, all the good stuff. I still remember, yeah, and you still get to argue with me. I like to think it was good-natured. It wasn't always. It wasn't always good-natured, but sometimes. I still remember one of these moments in my life where I was a regular in this channel on IRC. Oh, you still get to argue with Sphinx? Is he on Facebook? Or Chance, not Sphinx. Yeah, I don't keep in touch with any of those people anymore. It's just you, pretty much. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was invited to be a what do they call them? Moderators for you know, not a huge channel, but a relatively popular channel back in the day, and that was like an incredible moment in my life. At that point, I was like, oh, they like me. They want me to. They trust me with being a moderator. It was great. Anywho, you know, every once in a while I'll log into IRC and I'll say hi to Sprout. Sprout's usually hanging around on IRC, so I'll say hi to him. That's about it. To you and Sprout, mostly you. So I think I'm going to register this maybe later today and spend some money on this guy because it's such a big part of my life, that little icon. My goodness. Okay. Alrighty. So I want to add some stuff here. So let me think about this. So we're back here. We're taking a message from the chat. You owe that fee several times over. I think one time is probably enough. Anyway, I don't want to get on any lists or anything like that. I'll send them some money. Okay. So for instance, a lot of stuff is dynamic. Ooh. Shirley Dev says, ooh. But like the sound effect stuff is not particularly that dynamic. It always plays the same sound effect, right? So if we can make that a little more data-driven, perhaps, that might be good. It seems MRC might be Twitch compatible. Yeah, well, it should be, right? It's an IRC client, and Twitch is IRC server. I don't see why it wouldn't be. Serve files to Matt's stream. Atma? I don't know if I want to click on this or not. What is this? Is this your script, Phoenix? Atma script? Sounds vaguely familiar. Isageek.org. Oh my goodness, that's a throwback. Can you still buy those? Or is that just a domain you own now? Dine DNS faux life. I thought Isageek, I thought that was something that you could get like a free subdomain on for a while. Maybe that was just you who was doing that. I don't remember. Anywho, so these are your old scripts. Yeah, none of this is ringing a bell for me. I could have a surly bot roaming the channels when I'm asleep. Mwahaha. Yeah, just have a bot that every 20 minutes is going to do bang laugh command to the channel. That would be an abuse. Okay, so I'm thinking, it's one of the domains from dyingdns.org. I've been using it for an embarrassing amount of time for my home machine. So I'm thinking, if you look at these sound effects, they're all pretty much the same. And they're all using the same class, right? But what I'm doing here is I'm just checking to see, okay, if it's bang laugh, that's valid. If it's bang rimshot, that's valid. Otherwise, just go ahead and ignore that and store the message, right? So I'm thinking I could roll this up into something. It's a 20-minute timeout. Oh boy, the wheels are turning in Surly Dev head right now. I think it's 20-minute timeout. I don't remember exactly. But if you decide to test me and abuse it, Surly Dev, we're going to have to maybe just maybe add a band feature to sound effects. I'm not sure if that was a very funny joke, but the rim shot makes it seem funnier. Okay, so the thing is, I'm kind of trying to figure out here. So we could comment this out here, and we could put in a case statement var x when, and I could say, let's see, bookmark idea, send sound command to Matthew D. Groves' stream for all sound commands with randomness. I like the idea of bookmark though. Let's add a bookmark command to save notes to user profile. I do like that idea. So I'm going to put that on the list as well, because that's actually pretty cool. I've got this whole idea of user profile. A sound effect for what? For bookmark? I've got the idea of a user profile right now. So in my, if you create a profile, if you do a bang profile command or bang profile -shout, you can actually store a shout out message. So I could shout out, for instance, Coral R. And this will send a generic message. Hey everyone, check out Coral R's Twitch stream at so-and-so. If you do a bang profile, you can, bang profile -shout, you can set a custom message. And that message gets saved into a user profile. And that's all the user profile is right now, is a custom shout message. But a bookmark would be something that I could definitely consider adding to a profile. Now, of course, the bookmark list could get a little long, right? You could just adding bookmarks all day, and that would be an unbounded list, right? So think about that. I think Clarkio has note and mark commands for the show notes. I don't do show notes. Bang profile code rushed. So that, yeah. So you can only do shout out. You can only trigger shout out if you are a subscriber, I think, or mod, or both. And you can't create a profile for someone else. You can only create a profile for yourself. Anywho, so that's something I can think about, the bookmark thing for a future. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to do case X, where basically I want to say it means people can do his show notes for him. Oh, okay, interesting. Where do they put the show notes? I don't know. But what I want to do is a sound effect of X. And then it's going to return new sound effect of X. All right, but this has got to be some sort of function or lookup. All right, so how do I actually do that? Profile Surly Dev, the awesomest Surly Dev on the interwebs. So he puts them on GitHub. Okay. Oh, so people in the chat will say, "Oh, bang note." And then at the end, he'll collect all of those and throw them up on GitHub. All right, that kind of makes sense. Interesting. Yep, so you've sent that message, Surly Dev, so I can actually shout you out, and it should show your custom message. It is not. Oh, okay, because you did bang profile. It should be bang profile -shout. That's the command. So it's like a subcommand of the bang profile. So I'm trying to think. This is a method that's going to instantiate handler requests for mediator. So where would I put? Because I'm going to be calling mediator from within mediator, kind of sort of thing here, where I need to look up in the database, is this command related to a sound effect? So it's going to run a query to check that. But where would I put that? The awesome Surly developer on the interwebs, like that. Yep, that should work. So if I do a bang shout out now, Surly dev, and it should shout you out. So there you go. The awesome Surly developer on the interwebs, right? So anytime I shout you out, it'll show that custom message. So I need to think about this. Like, what's the best way? Because this request is going to be run every time a message is received. And so this is going to cause a query to run every time this message is received. Well, not every time, but much of the time. So I could have a single document that would contain a list of sound effects, something like that. I saw you laughing then. So let's think about this. Is this no, this is X? Yeah, X. So I could just create a method here. Command text, right? And so this will just be if command text, well, so I could just hard code this, right? Sound effects equals new list of string. And we've got, we got laugh, we've got rim shot, we've got badumtus. I'm downloading MRC because if you can script it and it works on Twitch, then that will be awesome. Okay. Sad trombone. Don't ask me any MRC questions because I've probably forgotten everything about how to script that. I think it was its own custom scripting language, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Coral knows for sure, but you'd have to learn MRC script, I think, to write scripts. So, I'm not sure you can. I mean, it might be possible, but I don't think you can just write a script in, C# or Python or whatever and plug it in. So it's funny. I'm basically writing an IRC bot right now. It's so funny how much changes and how much stays the same in my life. Let's see. If it works well, I might even register it. I did a lot in the past, but as you can see from that earlier link, it's been a good 12 years. My goodness, 12 years. So 12 years ago, I was writing IRC bot scripts and hanging out in chat rooms. This year, 2019, I'm writing basically IRC bots and hanging out in chat rooms with a video stream, but still, as a retrospective payment for the few years I used it. Well, I got to say, I definitely owe the money as well. I met you on IRC, 19 years ago? I feel like it was somewhere around then, because that would be 2000. I was 20 years old. I was in college. I was heavy in IRC in college. Yes, it's funny when new guys say, look at this, I've just written. 2000, 2001. I don't know for sure. That sounds about right. I was still living at home. I remember having that computer right there in my bedroom, and like a real squeaky office chair. Yeah, I did that with XML 20 years ago. There's so little that really changes fundamentally, right? The more things change, the more they stay the same. If I can revive my old hard drive, I can check the logs. Oh my gosh. Please don't bring up those logs. Oh. I'm sure, and I don't remember anything specifically, but I'm sure there's lots of horrible, horrible things that I said in that chat room. So Let me just apologize for all of it right now. I was young and stupid, and if those become public, I will never be elected to office. Okay, all right, so anyway, so return command text equals, no, return sound effects contains command text. That's it. Was young and stupid? Well, I'm still stupid. I'm just not young. That would be a good place for a laugh or a rim shot. Let's try it again. I'm still stupid, but I'm not young. Maybe a crickets would be better. Yeah, booing and hissing would be good. Okay, so this is just going to take the sound effect, and I think that's going to be good enough. Sound effect equals sound effect name, and then if I go up to my web, because I think all that my hub does, where's my hub? I don't think my hub does anything. It's just passing messages. Could I send you some sound effects on Discord? I mean, if you want to. I don't know. Can you send files on Discord? Feel free. Once I add this feature, it'll be easy for me to add sound effects without doing any recompile. I could just add some data. Well, I guess I'd still have to put a file out there in the system somewhere. But that could be a volume. I could just make that a Docker volume. Yeah, you can. Would you use them? I would consider using them. If you want to send me sound effects, I'm not on Discord right now, but if you've got ideas for sound effects, go for it. We've got to make this data-driven feature, though. Is your bot code on GitHub? Yes, it is. It is on GitHub. And the sound effects, I believe, are all there as well. So if you make a pull request to GitHub, and in fact, if you hit bang current project, you'll see the link to my project, to the Twitch bot project on GitHub. Okay. I was thinking, looking at www.roots.js hub. Sound effect name. Okay, so I think, yeah, what I do is sort of manually take the bang off of it there. Yes, that's good. And then I want to replace the old value with just nothing. So we'll take off the bang there. That way I won't have to change the JavaScript code. I do have an alias for this, badumtus equals rimshot, or sound effect name equals badumtus. Gonna play rimshot. Okay. All right, so that's all fine and good. So that should work. We could try it. I could try it here. Yeah, we'll just try it. Maybe a unit test for this method might be useful. I don't know. Probably be a good idea. Okay, so I've got this, and I'm going to change local storage clear. And then I'll hit the laugh, and this should work. Let me just do a hard refresh, just to make sure that the source code is what I expect it to be. And it is. Okay, so there we go. That's working. Oops. Leave that page open, I think. Because I'm working on the bot as I'm using it, so that's a little out of the ordinary. Okay, so that sound effects thing works. So that's all good there. So now I just need to replace this with a call to Couchbase. So how would I do that? I could just put it in here. I could say, make this a command. We can say valid sound effects equals, let's see, sound effect lookup request equals new sound effect lookup request. So I'm going to use mediator after all, I guess. Requests. Okay, we'll take off the request word. Over here, sound effect lookup. And the way this works is you inherit from iRequest. Okay. And then I'll just say valid sound effects equals mediator dot send and sound effect lookup request. Okay, so it's going to return, I don't know, something. Return valid sound effects dot is valid command text. Something like that. This is returning a task of unit. So what I need to do is, it's not going to be unit, it's going to be valid sound effects. This is going to be like a model, which, over here, I guess. Right, I forked your bot, cloned it locally, configured the local Git repo to show my surlydev alias instead of my work account, and I think I'm good to go. Expect pull requests. Love it. Lazeller, hey, thanks for stopping in, Lazeller. Hello, are you writing with PHP? I'm not writing with PHP. It kind of looks like PHP a little bit because it's got the curly braces, it's got the semicolon. I love the semicolons and the curly braces. That's just my style. I like PHP a lot. I have not used it much recently. I used to write all the time. Are you interested in PHP, Lazeller? You need help. Okay, well, hey, I'll do what I can. There's some other people in the channel who might know PHP better than me. Haruhai May. Yes, it is C#. Thank you also for dropping in. It is definitely C#. I like C# a lot. It's my favorite language. Lazeller, do you know if can I put include in another include? Yeah, we do all need help. That's correct, surlydev. I would say you need help more than others. Oh no, the laugh isn't working. Probably because of the throttle. Do you know if I can put include in another include? So, my goodness. That's a good question. So I haven't done PHP in a long, long time. So this may have changed. Haruhai May, I recently started learning C# and having difficulties understanding threading. It gives me headaches. Haruhai May, you are not alone. Threading in any language, pretty much, gives everyone headaches. Maybe not in functional languages, I don't know. But threading is not is not easy. I would say the asynchronous model. It's not the same exact thing as threading. That's a little bit easier to reason about than threading. I remember doing some threading in like a mobile app, a Xamarin app back in the day, and it was really, really basic threading, just incredibly simple. But it was, I mean, just the one little place where I used threading, it was such a pain in the neck to get it to work correctly, worry about race conditions, get unit tests around it. It was so much trouble. Okay, anyway, Lazeller, can I use include in another include? Yeah, you're definitely not alone, Haruhai May. You can definitely commiserate with us in threading. It can be a real pain. In fact, to remind me, I'll show you an interesting Stack Overflow question about threading. Okay, include statement. Can I use include within another include? I don't know. So back in the day, I think I stayed away from include. I used require, and more specifically require once, which I don't know if that's even still around. Yeah, it looks like it is. Pretty sure PHP doesn't care where you put includes, and I expect you can get loops with it. Hence the include once and require once directives. Yeah, sort of the point I'm making here is require once will only require or include the file one time. Obviously, that's the name, right? So I think, I'm going back to my, because PHP reminds me a lot of, maybe it's vice versa, but ASP Classic. ASP Classic and PHP, at least back in the day, were kind of similar in their approaches, right? And so one of the problems with ASP Classic was that exactly this. You would have an include, which itself would have an include, which would have another include, and it includes all the way down, which was something you could do, not necessarily something you should do. So I think Coral's right. I think you can do an include with another include. I'm more likely to use require and require once, so that I would know if that file doesn't exist, that the require would. I think that's how the difference is between require and include, is that require will fail if it can't include it. And include will just keep going. Again, this has been a long time since I've used PHP. I think I was on like PHP. When I was writing a lot of PHP, I think it was PHP 3, maybe 5. No, hey, Lizeller, that's why I'm here. We're here to answer questions. It's totally fine to write, to ask any question you want to. This is a safe place to ask questions, whether it's PHP or whatnot. We're going to try to help you. But I think the answer is yes to your question. All right, Haruhime, if I'm saying it correctly, is threading. Let's see. Maybe I can find it this way. Is threading valid? Simplify. Yes. Here's the question. This is a 10-year-old question. Haruhi. Okay, maybe that's more correct. Coral's been to Japan. Probably knows more Japanese than I do. I assume that's a Japanese name. Haruhi. Or just say Haru. All right. Haruhi. This is a question from 10 years, 3 months ago. We just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of this question. Is firing off a thread a valid answer to simplifying code? Now, this question has been around since the early days of Stack Overflow. And basically, the question was, I think the idea was, my boss says it's easier if you use threading. That's not a lot of views. Yeah, it's not. It's not a, this is not a terribly popular question on Stack Overflow. It's an old question, though. And the question was basically, I thought he was talking to a coworker or something and saying, hey, I just throw in threading. It'll make things simpler and easier to do. And this was an early days Stack Overflow. So this is the answer that I created, again, 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, that multi-threading does a lot of things, but simplification is not one of them. Yeah, everyone's avoiding threading even on Stack Overflow. So yes, this was an answer that was accepted. Not a great answer, really kind of sarcastic, but I was dealing with threading at the time, and so I felt like lashing out a little bit. I was like, multi-threading is not going to make things simpler, even if it's just a tiny bit of threading. So anyway, that question would get rightfully removed, or that answer would get rightfully removed or downvoted from Stack Overflow today. But 10 years old, and I'm still getting points for it. Okay, Lizeller is saying, is it good practice to include within an include? So, Lizeller, I think if you want to do it, if it solves a problem for you, I know you're asking Coral, but I'll chime in case he's AFK. I would say I'd recommend doing it if it helps you, but just keep in mind in the future, if you or someone on your team 6 months from now is trying to debug an issue, and the issue is within a library that's embedded within another library, that could be trouble. Now, of course, these days we have much better debugging tools and things like that for finding setting breakpoints and things like that. But just keep that in mind, that you're going to include within an include, that sort of stuff. Same way for require. Yeah, I would say the same thing. That would be my advice. As a guy who hasn't used PHP in years and years and years, that would be my recommendation. Okay. Going to work again. Okay, Lizeller. Thanks for stopping in. Love you so much. Well, we love you too. You just upvoted my answer. Surly Dev, why are you doing that? Thank you for the points, but it's not a good answer. Coral, yeah, the difference is just as Matt said, whether you want it to error if it fails. The underscore once methods are good for including libraries, so you don't needlessly reload them. Yep, that makes sense to me. I think Coral has definitely written much more PHP and much more recently PHP than I have, so I would take that into account. You have more gold badges than I have. Oh, that's okay. You know, a lot of my reputation on Stack Overflow, my badges and all that kind of stuff, it's really just a function of me getting in early on Stack Overflow. If you look at some of my early answers, they're not particularly great or insightful. I was just one of the early adopters. So there's a question on there, and I get points for this like every day. Whoa, where'd that come from? No one did that, did they? Only 15th of the rep, though. Yeah, so if you look at my... I get points for this every day. Oh, there's my 10 points from Surly Dev. This question: how can I split a comma delimited array into comma delimited string into an array in PHP? This was the Stack Overflow question from, again, 2009, and my answer was use explode. Basically, just regurgitating PHP documentation. I have 507 upvotes for this. I get points for this question every day. Yeah, if you want more details, this is my question in details. So there's a screenshot of this. So you must have posted this somewhere. Hello, can I put this? Session start, define, require once, connect to the database, in file to do this. Okay. So you're going to create, yeah, I mean, this is giving me some flashbacks for sure. A config inc PHP file. You know, I had thought, and I could be wrong, but that PHP had changed a lot. They've added some, a lot more first class, like object-oriented features, and people are kind of going in that direction. But I mean, this looks like PHP code that I was writing back in the day, like very much like it. And I would include a config file or a database file or whatever, anywhere I needed to use a database. So, if you're asking for my experience from 8 years ago, if this makes sense, yeah, it does. But I am far from a PHP expert. Whoa, there's something on my forehead. Right here. What is going on? Oh, I think it's because the lighting changed. The clouds kind of went over the sun out there, so the lighting's a little different. And so the green screen is kind of shining through a little bit here. Cool. Anyway, well, thanks, Lazeller. I hope we're helpful. Looks pretty reasonable. Configuration in one file, initialization in another, all included from a top-level spot where you're actually doing stuff. Yeah. Yeah, because you're going to want to reuse your database connection in lots of different places, right? I would recommend splitting. I love you so much again. You're so full of love, Lazeller. I love it. I'd recommend splitting out your database and away from Kiss on You. Oh my goodness. I'm blushing. That's what this spot is. It's blush. I would recommend keeping your database logic away from your UI as much as possible, because otherwise you're going to end up with kind of a spaghetti mess. But good luck to you. Hopefully this helps. You're stuck for maybe 4 hours. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but hopefully we've been helpful for you. And just keep in mind that Coral knows what he's talking about. I have, ancient PHP experience. See you later, maybe. Yeah. Hit the follow button there, and you'll see next time I go live. Have fun, dudes. All right, so valid sound effects. And I've got what I want is, yep, that's good. Oh, yeah, this needs to be a request of valid sound effects. That's how that works, right? Yep. So then I'll have a, oh, that's not what I want. I want to create this method. No, I don't want to change all. T result is valid sound effects. Yeah. So I just want a method here. Public bool is valid. String sound effect. Oh, that's not how you spell string. No, Not all code. Yeah, fine. This is a task. Oh, okay. This needs to be in await. Async. Okay. We're doing a task here. Here's a sound effect. Yeah, this is all fine. This is. Can I do an await here? Is that allowed inside of a condition like this? Can only use async, so I can make this one async. We're just going to make everything async. We're going to infect asynchronousness right up the chain. What doesn't like about this? Is there a send async? There's not. This should be in await, right? Like that. So this should be. I hope this works. Has the wrong return type. So that's problematic, right? Because yeah. Spartan GTR. I'm infecting my code with asynchronousness. You have something against C#? Not a fan? It's totally fine. You are allowed to not like C# in here. I, however, love C#. My favorite language to code in. I like it a lot. Anything with brackets and semicolons and non-significant white space, I'm all a fan of. VB.net for the win. Not a fan of VB.net. White space is not significant, but brackets and semicolons are not there. Rust, I've not used Rust. Not tried it out. One of these days, maybe I'll get an excuse to poke my head into F#. F#, I think, I could be wrong. It does have significant white space. So that's a no-go for me. I don't like that kind of stuff. I could be wrong about that, though. Okay, so we've got some stuff going on here with asynchronousness. That's becoming a problem. Maybe I just want to get functional, yo. Maybe I just want to wrap this up. I don't really want to do it like this, but how can I can do something like dot result, something like that. I don't know if I like that. Significant white space I can deal with. The case sensitivity of C# pees me off. You don't like case sensitivity? Oh boy. Okay, that's interesting. I could see why that might be problematic, depending on how you're writing your code. It's just something that I've learned to deal with. Camel snake kebabs. Oh my gosh, that's a mess there, Coral. But there was a book I read a while ago. Let's see. Well, the XML string and XML string are two different things. Yeah, right, exactly. There's the two different variable names. Now, yeah, so I can kind of see why, don't create two different variables that are the same letters in different casing. Don't do that. But I could see you can make the same argument against white space. Like, hey, yeah, tab and two tabs means two different things. So just don't do that. Something I've come to live with, though, is the case insensitivity. VB.net, though, that's not case sensitive, though. Is that right? Or at least it's like the default option. So maybe you were serious about VB.net? That's okay. That's fine. I used to do VB.net, ASP Classic with VB script, VB.net with ASP.net. So I don't know if I like this result here, because we're sort of saying, hey, this is asynchronous and block right here. Yeah, VB.net's not case sensitive. Shutters. What are you shuttering at there, Coral? VB.net? Just VB? I use some VBA too, if we're going to talk about shuttering. I like case insensitivity. Yeah, I guess Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. But we're sort of veering in a tab versus spaces category. If you declare a variable as XML string and then type XML string lowercase equals blah, then it will change XML string to XML string when it recognizes it. What will change? Visual Studio or the VB.NET compiler? Okay, so I've got valid sound effects. Not all code pass through. Yeah, that's fine. Visual Studio. Yeah, that makes sense. You could probably, there's probably some way you can configure that to happen in C# as well. So if I type dim XML string, oh my gosh, dim XML string as string. Good old dim. Okay, so I need a request handler. This is going to be valid sound effects handler. And then XML string is blah, blah, blah. Visual Studio will change it to XML camel case string, I assume is what you mean. So this needs to be an I request handler of, no, not valid sound effects handler. Yeah, valid. No, what I want is sound effect lookup. That's what I want. This is going to be sound effects lookup handler. Oh, so you scoff at dim, but then happily type var. I'm not scoffing. I'm just reliving my Visual Basic days. Language aware editor features can be nice for stuff like that. Yeah, I agree. Did I scoff? Okay, I didn't mean to scoff. I'm sorry for scoffing. You heard a scoff. All right, I'm sorry. I'll take it down the scoff. The scoffs are off now. We're off with the scoff. No more scoffs. This is not. Yeah, this is a send. It's going to return. Yeah. Also, your forehead is scuffed. My forehead is scuffed. I'm scoffing. Although, I'm trying to zoom in here. Yeah, I don't know. It's the lighting. I have to adjust the thing, but we only got like 20 minutes left, so I'm not going to worry about the chroma key stuff right now. I probably need some drapes for that window there. I have a window, a massive like picture window out to my backyard right there, which that can really have a strong effect on the lighting. This board behind me, so yeah, my forehead is scuffed. Head like a hole. Hashtag head like a hole. You get that right. Okay. All right, so handler, and yep, that's good. So let's do constructor, and I'll have iTwitch bucket provider. Yep. So our bucket equals bucket provider dot get bucket. So that gives me a database object to interact with my Couchbase bucket. And so sound effects list equals bucket dot get async, and this is going to be valid sound effects. And I'm not scoffing, honest. Thank you for that clip, Surly Dev. Let's check that one out. All right, we'll call this, I don't know, valid sound effects. Okay, and this should be an await, I think. This needs to return valid sound effects, not unit. I think that's right. Sound effects is not sound effects handler. So this is the first time I've done a query object. I don't want it to return task unit. Oh, you know what? This is supposed to return. Okay. Yes, this is supposed to be a request. So valid. That's the lookup, and then valid sound effects. I think request is first. Response. Yep, I think that's right. I have a question for you. Would you say Couchbase is like MongoDB? I would say that they're both document databases. You're storing data essentially as JSON. Yeah, I would say they're both in the same ballpark. They are. This is a question I get at the booth all the time. Yeah, they're both similar in that sense. We're talking databases, but there's lots of other differences in terms of architecture and features. Personally, I like some of the decisions that Couchbase has done in terms of architecture, and we can talk about that if you want to. But my favorite thing I think about Couchbase is that I can write SQL with it. I can write SQL against my NoSQL data, and I started my career in VBA and Access and writing lots of SQL. And I went on to write a lot of SQL with SQL Server and MySQL. So I have a lot of SQL under my belt. So when I looked at NoSQL, I thought, this is pretty cool. There's some really cool ideas here with NoSQL, with document databases, and non-forcing schema and scaling and things like that. But I really don't want to learn a whole new query language. And so Couchbase is out there. They've got a SQL query language. It's terrific. I can take my SQL skills and apply them to NoSQL database. Love it. Okay. So that's my favorite thing. I was looking through my Manning dashboard earlier, and I realized I have a MongoDB book that I bought years ago. I was thinking of reading through it to get familiar with NoSQL databases before trying to tinker with Couchbase, perhaps. So, two things. Mongo has, I don't know how old the old book is, but Mongo has changed a bit in version 4 from version 3. So that's going to be, it's not going to be terribly up to date. Two, you're going to learn about Mongo, a lot of things that Mongo's done, and some of the approaches to scaling in Mongo and querying in Mongo and data modeling in Mongo are different. They're going to not necessarily apply all the way across the board. Some things will. That does sound useful. I've been using T-SQL for over 10 years. That might be useful. I agree wholeheartedly. Reading it for the terminology and concepts rather than the code samples. Yeah, skim through it, I think. You can still find some useful stuff in there. There is a Couchbase book as well. It's not from Manning, but it's also pretty old, pretty out-of-date Couchbase book. And we've been thinking about, commissioning another book or working on another book. The thing is with the way technology is these days, like APIs and stuff change so often. It's like, how useful is a print book? I've been putting off 7 databases in 7 weeks for a long while. It might give me a similar insight. You should write it on stream. I wrote a tech book 8 years ago. Whew. That is a lot. It is a lot to write a tech book. And, I like to think my book, again, with the terminology approach, kind of holds up. But, writing tech books for specifically how to do something. Here's how code samples, things like that. That's really tough to do because stuff changes so often. And I don't know how those people who are writing like Angular and React books and Vue books, like how they even. It's just as soon as you finish a chapter, like the API changes or they've introduced a new feature or whatever. So. Don't look for me to write a book on the stream, or don't look for me to write a book, period. I did it once. Okay, so this is, what's going on here? Async method. Oh, yeah, async. Why doesn't it like this, though? Sound effect. AOP and yep, that's my book, AOP and .NET. So yeah, something's not right here. I think that book, if it's out of date, AOP.NET, it's mainly because it's all .NET Framework examples and it's not .NET Core examples. And actually, I had to go back and a user group requested me to do an AOP presentation, and I wanted to update it for .NET Core. Most of the stuff in my samples translated pretty well. But the dependency injection stuff, which ASP.NET Core has a whole new dependency injection framework built in. So that was where most of the trouble was for me, especially when it came to Castle. dynamic proxy in Castle Core. PostSharp, though, I think their API is relatively stable, I think, and they've just added support for Linux and Mac too. So PostSharp, I think all the examples should mostly hold up in that book if you're into PostSharp. Okay, so why doesn't it like this? No, I think it's fine. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, it's because it doesn't have... Oh, there's no return path yet. Muhahaha. What is this? Oh, it's my book. There it is. Amazon.co.uk. All right. there it is. You might be able to get a better deal from the Manning website directly. They usually have coupon codes and stuff. You can check that out. One of the things I'm most proud about this book, and I got to say, since you brought it up, you can't really see it on this screenshot here, but I actually somehow convinced Phil Hack, yes, that Phil Hack, to write the foreword for it. Looking on Bookmooch. I don't know what Bookmooch is. That sounds interesting. This guy, Phil Hack, I convinced him to write a foreword for the book. And I didn't really have to convince him. I just asked him, and he was so nice to do it. You still got your copy? Did you buy a copy of my book, Carl? Did I give you a copy? That's awesome. I still have a couple copies over here on my bookshelf. Anyway, so he wrote a great foreword for this. He was doing some AOP stuff inside of the MVC framework at the time. Spartan. Holy crap, people actually use Bing. Yes, they do. I use Bing because, I'll tell you why. I use Bing because they pay me to. Whenever I do a search on Bing, I earn points, and I can turn them in for like Amazon gift cards and stuff. And I find that I get about the same type of results I do with Google. So downloading back. How do I get on board with that? Oh, I was going to turn into a Bing sales pitch here. But if you go to what is it? If you log into Bing, I don't know if I want to show the screen. But it's like Bing Rewards or something. Oh, the Wikipedia page. Microsoft Rewards. Maybe they call it Microsoft Rewards now. Yeah. I don't know what Bookmooch is. So let's see. You got it as soon as it was printed. That was super nice, Coral. Thank you for that. It was a really good experience for me to write that book, and I don't want to knock writing tech books because it was definitely valuable for me personally. Bookmooch. Oh, it's like a free book sort of exchange service. That's cool. Signed copy? Who was asked about signed copy? Is it signed? I signed at least 100 copies of the book, and probably more. Every once in a while, people will come up to me after a session and say, "Hey, can you sign my book?" I don't know why. I don't understand the whole tech book signing thing. I mean, it's not going to be a collector's item. I mean, unless something tragic happens to me, even then, it's not going to be worth that much. HCabNet Tech. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Thank you for stopping in. I miss .NET C#. I've been stuck in Salesforce Apex for the last couple of years. Never used any Salesforce stuff. Thank goodness. Yeah. Then they can track everything I do just like Google. Sure, yeah, they can track you. Then you're going to get free gift cards in exchange. I recall having a conversation about decorators and other means of addressing concerns around the time you published it, which might be a good topic for me to revisit. Yeah, I think I remember us talking about decorators and AOP frameworks for other languages besides .NET. There was... Hey, V. Ostick, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. For a while, my website, Cross-Cutting Concerns, was purely about AOP and nothing else. So I was doing blog posts about AOP frameworks for all kinds of languages, not just .NET. So there was a time where I knew every AOP framework that was in existence, large or small. Let's see. I took a VB6 internet programming book to NDC in London 6 years ago, so Carl Franklin could sign it. Carl Franklin, he's a little bit more of a celebrity than I am, but even then, I don't know. I mean, does that really... People out there looking for Carl Franklin signatures? I don't know. Maybe. No offense, Carl Franklin, but... here's a little tidbit, though. it's a little inside baseball with books. What they tell you to do, I'm not, Manning didn't tell me to do this, but someone told me to do this, was go to a bookstore, see if your book's on the shelf, and then take them off the shelf and take them up to the customer service desk or whatever and say, hello, I'm the author of this book. I'm Matt Groves. Here's my identification. Here's my name on the cover. Could I sign these books for you? Well, the bookstore is going to be like, oh, so cool, you're an author. Yeah, we love to sell your signed book in our store. Okay, let me sign those. Sign, 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 sign. Thank you. There you go. Now, what you may not know is there's a concept of returns, which is to say, we didn't sell this book, so we're going to return it back to the publisher and get a refund for it. Well, if the book has been signed or altered or written in, you can't return it. So when you're signing a book in the store, you're essentially selling a copy by not doing anything. So that was just an interesting little trick. Not that makes, no, signing a few books isn't going to make much money. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. You got the name right. It's just my last name reversed. Your last name is Kettenbach? Kettenbach backwards. Your copy is not signed, so I have to meet up sometime. Sure, you want me to sign your book? I'll sign your book. Whatever. Maybe Martin Fowler or Bob Martin autograph, or a Gang of Four author maybe, other than that. I mean, yeah, perhaps. I think it would be a lot more interesting to have autograph of one of the giants of computer science, like Alan Turing or John von Neumann or something like that. That might be more interesting to have. Martin Fowler, Bob Martin, Gang of Four authors, that's all, they're all great, famous authors and everything, but I mean, is it really going to make the book more valuable? Just kind of a fun thing to do, to introduce yourself and say, hi, I'm Martin Fowler. I got your book. I like it. Could you please sign for me? It's a good way to introduce the author, I suppose, to meet the author in person. Hi, can I deface this book so you can't return it? Yeah, basically that's the trick. Any excuse to hang out, maybe get some hard lemonades. I've moved on from hard lemonades. I'm much more into straight up liquor these days. So some scotch, that sort of thing. Yeah, we should meet up sometime, Coral. It's been a while. Maybe we could. Maybe I could get a cruise set up there in Jersey or New York port and stop by on the way out there. Might be an opportunity to kick him, but it's nice getting to meet awesome people. I don't recommend you assault people that you want an autograph from. Get the autograph first, then assault them. Yes. Okay. Cool. All right. What was I doing? Oh yeah, the sound effect thing. Okay. So we're going to say, basically, sound effect list. This is going to be a result, right? Sound effect result. If sound effect result dot is successful, oh no, is not successful, then we're going to return new valid sound effects. Okay, this is an object. Scott Goo autograph or Anders. Yeah, I mean, some people are just into autographs. That's fine, nothing wrong with it, but just don't think it's going to make the book more valuable or anything, right? It's in the grand scheme of things, all these people are not are not famous enough to warrant their autograph meaning anything in terms of monetary value. So I like I said, I signed several hundred copies, like promotional copies of the book, and actually caused me to change my signature. So my signature has changed because of that. But I guess it's something. It's like, oh, we're giving away a free copy of the book. Oh, we're giving away a signed copy of the book. Yeah, it's a little bit of value add. Bill Gates. So here's the thing with anything, right? Anything collectible or valuable, it's how many of them are out there, right? Like a Stan Lee autographed comic book. pretty much, he's autographed like a million billion things. So unless the item itself is particularly notable and has an autograph, just having an autograph doesn't really add a ton of value because Stan Lee lived so long and signed so many things. On the other hand, like a Harlan Ellison autograph, he was a notoriously grumpy author. I don't know if he did a lot of signatures, and he's dead. So anything signed with Harlan Ellison is going to possibly be more valuable than something signed by Stan Lee, right? Because he's not signing anymore, because he can't sign anymore. That's the hard truth. Now, personally, you may value a Stan Lee autograph because you love Stan Lee, and that's totally fine, but you're not going to get any money for it in the market. Unless it's like, some sort of one-off sketch, original art, something like that. That's also autographed. Yeah, that's going to be valuable. Like a one-of-a-kind proof or something like that. I used to watch Comic Book Men, so kind of know this stuff from watching that show, I guess. All right, sound is valid sound effect. Okay, so this is going to have like a public list of, and this is going to be like a sound effect. Sound effects. So that's going to correspond. What's the sound effect class? Oh no, that's the sound effect request. Okay. Sound effect info. I would value a Jesus autograph in my Bible. Yeah, that would be pretty valuable, but I think it would be tough for you to take that on Antiques Roadshow and prove that it was a authentic autograph. It's a popular name, probably pretty easy to get. Yeah, you could find someone named Jesus to autograph your Bible, sure. But to get a letter of authenticity that it was signed by Jesus of Nazareth, that's going to be tough to prove. All right, so sound effect info. I might need to change these class names. They're getting a little confusing. So this is the data I want to actually store in my document written on papyrus in Biro. Okay. All right. So I have a sound effect name. And could potentially store the file name in here too, right? I don't know about that. Let's just keep the name in there for now. Okay, so we say if sound effects is null, then return false, because there's nothing for it to be valid. If sound effects, if there's not any sound effects, return false, and then so it's just an empty list, and then we return sound effects dot contains sound effect contains x where x dot single. We can do single. Excuse me. Single or default. Let's see. Let's just do any. X dot sound effect name equals sound effect. Yep, and we'll just do a 2 lower on this just to make sure. Okay. Putting a little bit of logic in our model here. Do devs still use autofac for dependency injection? Don't think I've ever used autofac. This is one, I think I covered it briefly in my book actually, but yes, people still use autofac. I don't. I've never used autofac. And then ASP.NET Core comes with dependency injection now. So if you need just really simple dependency injection, you probably don't need to have a separate library at all. But there's other dependency libraries out there. There's Lamar, Castle, Windsor, I think is still out there. And, a bunch of other ones like Structure Map, which has kind of been retired. Ninject, I think has also been retired. Lots of libraries. I think Spring Framework has one. Spring.net has a dependency injection. But yeah, AutoFact's still around, still alive and kicking. Link. So I think you mean link, L-I-N-Q, right? So this is right here. This is a link expression. Link to objects. Okay. All right. So that's going to pull. Great. I just installed .NET Core 3.0. Yeah. That's what I'm using right here. This is .NET Core 3.0 project. Is it sound effect? Yeah, sorry. No, it's fine. So because it stands for something, it's a language integrated query, right? LINQ. That's the whole reason it's called that. And that, by the way, it used to be anyway, kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Ambiguous, because there's a couple different things named link, LINQ. Can I port your bot to VB.NET? How about VBA? If you want to port my bot to VB.NET, go right ahead. VBA, I mean, hey, man. I'm not going to tell you no, but I got some questions to ask you if you want to port to VBA. It would be interesting to see a VBA port of it, like built on top of Excel, maybe. It's a chatbot running in Excel. That would be wild, wild stuff. VBA, allow the variant data type. Oh my goodness, variant. Woof. Don't use variant in an application like this. I vaguely remember, this may not be the case anymore, I haven't used VBA in years, but variant had like a footprint, like a 20 meg footprint or something like that, just for a variant type. It was ridiculous. Okay, so we got sound effect, ick. Yes, ick is right. It was, and that was 20 meg like 10 years ago, if I'm thinking of the right thing, which is, I mean, it's brutal now. Back then, even more so. Why would you need a 20 meg footprint for something like that? And the answer is there's some use cases where it makes sense, but the problem is if you're kind of lazy or you don't know better, you'd make everything a variant, right? And now you got yourself a problem. Kind of like the dynamic keyword in C#. It doesn't quite have that same footprint, I don't think, but don't want to use dynamic everywhere. Use it strategically. Basically just using PHP. Wow. Coral dunking on PHP. Or Perl. Okay, so what I have right now, this should, VBA and Office 97 was my intro to programming, deconstructing macros. Yeah, I think Access in Office 97 was my first real programming job. First real salary programming job was Access 97. And this was in 2004, so using Access 97 in 2004. And then eventually moved to Access 2000, and then I left for another job. What about WordScript, MS Word? That predated VBA. No idea what WordScript is. I will take your word for it. I will take your word for it. Ye gods, I had to learn how the Perl JSON library determines whether to encode a value as a number or as a string, which was painful, because the distinction doesn't really exist outside of the dark innards of the language. The language of Perl, I assume you mean. Perl was the gum that held the internet together for many years. I suspect that much of the internet is still being held together by Perl scripts in some deep corner of data centers. Access 2.0, bada bing. Yeah, it's funny you say bada bing because that's actually the emoji right now for subscribers is a picture of my friend Calvin Allen, who used to say bada bing, bada boom when we pair program all the time. I wrote a program in QBasic to do some work for me. Surly Dev, my first real professional software that was deployed in production was written in QuickBasic. My parents owned a pizza shop, and I thought that taking orders with a pen and paper was terribly inefficient and hard to read people's handwriting. So I wrote basically a quick basic point of sale app to take orders over the phone, and eventually it evolved into like keeping track of sales and generating business reports and stuff like that. So that was I count that as my first real production app. I didn't strictly get paid for that, writing that software, but it became an important part of the business. Hey, thank you for the follow. Kettenbach. Backwards Kettenbach. Thank you for the follow. Not counting, you definitely subscribe. Yeah, that'd be great. If you want to subscribe, I'd appreciate that. And you will get access to some additional bot commands and the old, what's it called? Emoji there. Emote. Not counting logo back in grade school. I didn't do any logo in grade school. It was all basic for me from the very beginning. First computer TRS-80 was basic. And then GW Basic on DOS and Q Basic and so on. It's all basic for me. I never did any logo. Not a lick. Okay. We got about 9-10 minutes left, so let's just give this a try here and see if I'm going to hit some breakpoints here. Probably should be writing unit tests for this. Oh, wait a second. Sound effect lookup. Yes, that's fine. And then sound effect handler. Sound effect handler. Are you primarily a C# dev? I had lots of logo. Yeah, hey, anti-aware, or Antiaware. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Yeah, my last job was all C#, .NET, SQL, and that's one of the reasons that Couchbase wanted me as a developer advocate originally, was because they didn't have anybody doing Microsoft stuff on the DA team. So that's what I've been doing. I focus mainly on .NET C#. I can write other stuff. I'm fairly competent with JavaScript, client-side JavaScript, not necessarily any particular framework, but just JavaScript. And I can get by with Node. I've written some Java before. I don't know why, but they wanted me to write some Java, so I wrote some Java. And that's, and I've done, like I said, I've done PHP in the past, and I really like to get back into PHP because it's a language that I think, I have a fondness for, and it runs much of the web. So I would like to get back into PHP. I haven't really had a chance to. Awesome. You do Couchbase? I apologize to someone on this channel. No, that's fine. That's fine, man. Don't need to apologize. This is a safe place. I work for Couchbase. Yeah, I'm a developer advocate for Couchbase. And Apex is very much like Java. The Apex for Salesforce you're talking about. Okay, I've never really heard of Apex before. I've heard of Salesforce. Apex is very much like Java. PHP, WordPress, and Drupal. Yeah, exactly. WordPress and Drupal run a lot of the web, and PHP plugins, Drupal plugins, custom dev for WordPress and Drupal. That's a ton of the web right there. Media Wiki, Wikipedia, all the sites like that. Those are all PHP. I'm pretty sure those are still PHP. Not to mention all the frameworks like Laravel and Cake PHP and all that kind of custom development out there as well. A lot of PHP. It's a language that takes a lot of flack, but I think it's it's a language that stood the test of time, and it's made a lot of positive changes, and I like it. I have love for PHP. Let's see. Salesforce is an easy platform for non-developers to get started building web apps. Oh, interesting. Kind of makes sense. So I'm guessing many or most of Salesforce users are non-developers. Just, it's obviously meant for salespeople or marketing. I don't love it, but I'm a consultant and it pays well. Well, Salesforce, they have that big old building in San Francisco, so they're making money somewhere. They're doing something right. Okay. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to set a breakpoint here. Wait a second. Sound effect handler. This is my actual, okay. This is why it's confusing. because I've got a bunch of different sound effects classes here. Most users are not developers. Yeah, I would expect so. We use Salesforce here at Couchbase. I don't think I've ever logged into it. It's all sales and marketing people. Yeah. I think some of our activities feed into Salesforce, I think, but it's not something I use directly ever. So I actually it's a CRM, yeah. So actually, one of my side projects from years ago, it was originally a PHP project, but I moved it to .NET C# later, was like a sales rep program, like a web-based sales rep program for small businesses, right? Not a CRM per se, but a way to track invoices and territories and things like that. And it's still in business today. I handed it off to someone else, actually Calvin Allen, but it's still running today, running on Azure. But I originally wrote it in PHP. I'm not a Salesforce advocate. I do a lot of React.js. Do you build React.js on top of, assume, Salesforce backend? Or is this something you like doing on your own, React.js? Okay, so I think what I want to set a breakpoint at here is, yeah, okay, I got to finish running this. That's why Calvin trolls you. Oh, man, Calvin's not trolling me. Calvin's great. Some good-natured camaraderie. I've seen folks use Apex. It looked painful. All right, so if sound effect result success, so otherwise I want to return sound effect result dot value. I think that'll work, right? Yes. Okay, I don't expect to actually hit this point yet because this document does not exist. All right, I'm going to run this with debugger attached. And we're going to see, let's hope this works. Okay, so let's do a test of this. All right, hit the breakpoint. That's good. I was a front-end dev for many years, jQuery and AngularJS, and most recently React. I used a ton of jQuery in my career. Pretty much since jQuery came out, I've used that for the front end up until I started with Couchbase. Couchbase is very back end, so I don't spend a lot of time with the front end in Couchbase. Angular, I've done a little bit with Angular. But again, I'm more focused on the back end these days, in the database, things like that. So I don't spend a lot of time on the front end. All right, so this should return success equals should be false there. Yep. So it's going to return that sound effect, which is what I would expect it to happen. It's going to come here. This is going to return false, I assume. So it's going to skip right. This is working great. This is working exactly how I want it to. Fantastic. So is Couchbase a competitor to MongoDB? Yes. Yes, it is a competitor to MongoDB. We're both document databases, both NoSQL databases. I think that's fair to say. Couchbase is a MongoDB competitor. And just to preempt your next question, because this always goes in this direction, Couchbase and CouchDB, not the same thing. Also, both document databases, they have a similar name for historical reasons, but they are not the same thing. All right, so that's working great. So now I just need to, I've got a failing test here. That's no good. I need to check out what test that is. But what I need to do now is go and create a document called valid sound effects. Although it is noon, I got a meeting I need to get to actually. So let's quickly find someone to raid. Let's look at my licensing in 2 different projects. Yeah, it's just they're not even the same API, anything like that. CSharp Fritz, InstaFluff, and myself. I don't think we've rated CSharp Fritz in a while. Let's go ahead and do that. Go over there, be nice to CSharp Fritz. If you're a subscriber, hit that bada bing, bada boom emote. Oh, looks like he's done for the day. So we're not going to go to C# Fritz. We're going to go to InstaFluff instead. InstaFluff. Same thing. Be nice to InstaFluff. Does all kinds of cool stuff over there. Looks like he's doing some Minecraft right now. Majestic, fluffy, fat bunny. So hit the emote, say hi to InstaFluff, hang out with InstaFluff for a while, and start that raid, and we'll see you over there. Thank you very much for joining me today. I had a pretty good turnout today. Really great chat. So thank you everyone for the questions and for hanging out and for looking through stuff with me. Thank you for the follows there. Antiware, Kettenbach backwards, V Allstock, Legend of Chan, and thank you all for the follow. I appreciate it. Yes, you all definitely make the stream more interesting. Thank you for all hanging out, and we'll see you next time. I'll be back streaming Thursday afternoon, 1:30 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. Thank you for the follow, Haruhi. I think I got it right. Okay, so I'm hitting the raid now. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
Bada bing, bada boom.
The